rewriting, if you already had it, make sure it's correct in the same order, all those things. Right, so starting with number 2, we had to do order of operations. Grouping first, what's inside the parentheses, bring down everything else. Then we could do our exponents. We have 2, so we could do this and this at the same time. So 24 minus 64 plus 4 times 8. Then multiply your 4 and your 8. And then subtract and add. So 24 minus 64 would be negative 40. Negative 40 plus 32 should have been negative 8. Okay, so make sure you have that work and that answer written on that. Yes.
Is this one?
Or this one. Make sure you're showing each step. And that's something we're going to talk about with the quiz as well. Other questions on that one? 2, 4. We had to translate this into an algebraic expression. 2 less than, so we know we're subtracting and 2 is going to go at the back. The product of, so everything here is being multiplied. Negative 4 and everything else is being multiplied. But negative 4 is being multiplied to the sum of everything here. So if you write what we know, 2 less than, at the end we're subtracting 2. We are multiplying negative 4 to something in parentheses. That something in parentheses is the sum, a number plus 3. So your variable can be different, but it should be in that exact same order. All of it should be on the first one. Questions on that one? And then number 5, we need to simplify. So distribute. Don't let the fractions confuse you. That should be similar to something you saw on the quiz. Multiply 1/2 and negative 12, or divide negative 12 by 2. And then same thing here. And same thing on this one. Be careful with your negatives. And then combine like terms. I'm going to close these. Questions on that last one? So again, make sure you hold on to your answer sheet. If you did not write on your little half sheet, not at this moment, but you can either recycle those or I'll take those back. If you wrote on them, then recycle them. Alright, let's go through the quiz. So your quizzes will be set up similarly, broken down to a couple or a few questions per objective. When I go over the quiz, if there's anything that you made a mistake on, I want you to fix it on your own paper, on a separate sheet of paper or something, so that you know what you did and you don't make that same mistake for the test. Right? For the most part, we did fine with this. There were some outliers, but for the most part, we were fine. 4 times, so we were multiplying the sum of, so all of this should have been in parentheses. N is being squared, and then we are adding 1. So this should have looked like 4 times n squared plus 1. So if you put the square on the outside, that was incorrect, because not everything is being squared. If you put the 4 in the back, usually we won't see it like that. Some of us put the square with a 1. Again, be careful. So the 3 points here were, did you show that there was multiplication, that the multiplication went to everything, that there was a square, that there was a plus in the right order? Questions on that one? Okay. Number 2, there were different ways to put this. However, you needed to somehow say negative 1/2. Now you could have wrote out the fraction 1/2. Some of you wrote out in words, that was fine, but you did need to write out the word negative. And then somehow saying that it's multiplying to everything. So you could have said the product of, you could have said times the difference, either of those. Now here's where it got tricky. Some of you were using times the difference, but then also still using minus. Difference covers that. You don't have to put that in again. So times the difference of 3 times n and 2. Some of you were putting 3 times n minus 2, which would look like negative 1/2, then parentheses, 3n minus 2, but because we already said difference, you still have to subtract something else. So don't put in extra words. If it says difference, you have that covered already. Right, so the 4 points there were, did you name the negative? Did you show that you're multiplying to everything? Did you somehow show the subtraction? And then the other multiplication. For a total of 7 points for that objective. Questions on 1 or 2? And I'll explain what happens with tests and quiz scores right after we finish one of those. Right? 2. Some of you got this one, some of you did not. So we needed to combine the cube terms to get negative 7p to the third. Some of you remembered that this order is commutative. It doesn't matter, so you could combine them. Some of you did not. So when you put MP, PM, I didn't care. And then the 3m would have been by itself. So the 3 points were, did you combine your cube terms? Did you combine your MP, PM, whatever terms, and then leave the 3m by itself? Questions on that one? For the most part, we were fine here, but there were minor issues. So the distributing part was fine. We got 2x plus 4, and then minus 18x plus. Some of us were putting symbols. I don't assume anything when you guys give me quizzes or tests. You don't put things. I don't know what's supposed to be there. Like, obviously, I actually know, but I don't assume to know, because then I could assume your whole quiz. I could assume it's supposed to be this, well, this is supposed to be this, and then by me assuming you get 100. So I don't assume anything. So always make sure you have your symbols. Some of you did not put this as a plus, which changed your whole answer. So double check your math always. And then combine your like terms. So the 4 points were, did you distribute this first part correctly? Did you distribute the second part correctly? Did you combine the x's correctly and then the constants correctly? Questions on that? And And then the last one. For both of these, you should have put each of these in exactly as it is. If you were using the dot instead of parentheses, I didn't take off for that, but remember, this is the last unit that you're going to do that. Try to use parentheses or not at all in the future. Now, this one, because these are fractions, you needed parentheses or something. So I needed to see you put A and B, the values, into every single A and B. That was worth 1 point. You didn't show that, you didn't get that point. Or you showed pieces and parts of that, you got half point. Then, how you multiplied it, whether you multiplied it by hand or in a calculator, was up to you. I'm trying to remember what these were. Right, so multiply. Did you simplify what's in the absolute value correctly? Then, did you subtract what's in each absolute value correctly? But then some of you went from here to the final answer. We cannot add these until we drop the absolute value. So, the 5 points. Did you write everything? Did you show how you put everything in? Did you simplify both absolute value parts correctly? Did you simplify this part correctly? So that was all worth 1 point. And then the final answer. Any mistake was minus 0.5. And then if you made a mistake that caused you the wrong answer, that was also 0.5. Okay, questions on any of that? Okay. And this last one. Alright, so same as this one, show how you put each of these into the original. Some of you just put minus, I was okay with that. Alright, so showing that part was 1 point. And then some of you started simplifying too much. You would put this entire thing in the calculator, this entire thing in the calculator, and then get that answer, but I need to see every step. So I should have seen what you got when you multiplied, / added, subtracted. Then you could actually take the square root, actually take the cube root to get positive numbers. So the 7 points there were, did you show the original? Did you show how you simplified each thing? So that was 4 points in this alone. Did you show the next simplification? And then the final answer. So some of you got weird things because I think you didn't use cube root. If you got decimals, you were not using cube root. Some of you got positives instead of negatives. I'm not sure if you didn't put the negative in or what happened there, but double check. Did we have any questions on that one? So what usually happens, what will happen is if you didn't do well on a quiz section, so let's say you didn't do well on this last section, if you do well on the test section of evaluating, it will replace it. It does not work the other way. And then we'll talk about retakes after you take your test. So that will happen for all 3 of these. If you did better on the test for any of those, it will replace. If the quiz score is better than the test score, the quiz score stays. And then the test will just be the test score. Right? As you may have already seen, these were 3 quiz grades for each objective. Your test will be the same. I think other things that you need to know. Do we have any questions in general about quiz, tests, anything like that? So Monday will be your quiz. If you need more time, you'll have Tuesday. And then Wednesday, Thursday will be flex days for retake purposes, extra help, finishing tests if you're still not finished, stuff like that. We'll talk about how flex day will work next week. And I'll explain more about the tests next week. For the remainder of class, if you haven't done the Delta Math this week today, you can do that. If you feel like you need more practice on this, or maybe you still don't understand what you did wrong on something on the quiz, raise your hand and I'll come back. But this time it's yours.